It was a quiet afternoon in the manicured streets of Willow Creek, a suburban enclave where every lawn was pristine and every mailbox bore the stamp of HOA approval. I sat in my nondescript gray sedan, the kind that blends into any neighborhood like a chameleon. My laptop glowed with a single line, monitoring target, Crestwood Financial. For weeks, I'd been tracking suspicious transactions linked to this company, parked in a reserved spot with a clear view of their office. Just another day on the job until a black pickup truck roared into the lot, tires screeching, and changed everything. The driver, a young man named Ethan Carter, barely 20, stormed toward my car with the swagger of someone who'd never heard the word no. His face was flushed with entitlement, eyes narrowed as he pounded on my window like he was trying to break it. "You've got 10 seconds to get out of my spot," he bellowed, spit flecking my glass. I rolled down the window, keeping my voice steady. "This is my assigned spot. The sign's right there." But Ethan wasn't here for a reason. "People like you don't belong here," he sneered, his words dripping with venom. Then, in a move that stunned even me, he spat on my windshield, a vile glob that slid down the glass as he shouted, "Know your place." I stayed calm, years of training kicking in. Inside, I was cataloging every detail: his words, his actions, the hate in his eyes. I discreetly hit record on my phone. "Got it," I said softly, capturing his tirade. Ethan had no clue he was committing federal crimes in front of someone who could unravel his world. Minutes later, a sleek silver SUV pulled up, and out stepped Margaret Hayes, Ethan's mother and the iron-fisted president of the Willow Creek HOA. Her tailored blazer and polished clipboard screamed authority, her HOA badge glinting like a sheriff's star. "Ethan, I'm here," she called, then turned to me with a look that could curdle milk. "Do you know where you are? This is Willow Creek, an elite community. I can make your life hell if you don't show respect." Her voice was a blade, and her emphasis on elite made her meaning clear. I didn't belong. Margaret launched into a tirade, boasting about her control over the neighborhood's cameras, her master keys to every facility, and her power to banish residents who crossed her. "I've removed 10 families from this community," she bragged, as if exiling neighbors was a sport. She even hinted at her influence over local officials and her grip on the HOA's finances, fees, projects, and assessments. It was chilling, the way she described her dominion like a queen unchallenged. Then she pulled out her phone. "I'm calling Tom right now. Detective Larson is a friend, and he'll have you arrested for threatening my son." I watched, fascinated, as she held her hand, oblivious to the fact that she was facing someone with far more power than she could imagine. Game on. When Detective Tom Larson and his partner, Officer Reed, arrived, I saw the weariness in Larson's eyes. This wasn't his first call from Margaret. "What's the situation, Margaret?" he asked, his tone heavy with resignation. She switched to a saccharine charm, reminding him of their ties, her support for his brother's campaign, their kids' school connections. Then came the lies. She claimed I'd threatened Ethan, cursed at them, and tried to intimidate them. She even played a doctored audio clip, my voice spliced to sound aggressive, and my explanations cut off. Larson turned to me. "Mr. Thompson, can you explain this?" The fact that Margaret knew my name, James Thompson, raised a red flag. She'd run my plates in minutes, a sign of resources beyond a typical HOA busybody. I kept my response measured. "Officer, I have the full, unedited recording of our encounter. I was legally parked when Mr. Carter approached, made inappropriate demands, and acted aggressively." Margaret's face flickered with panic, but she recovered fast. "He recorded me without consent. That's harassment," she shrieked, trying to paint me as the villain. When Larson asked for my phone, I politely declined, citing my right to an attorney. Margaret pounced. "He's resisting. He's hiding something," she yelled, playing to the growing crowd of neighbors. That's when my work phone rang. I answered, keeping my tone cryptic. "Thompson here. Position confirmed. Target identified." I hung up and looked at Larson. "Detective, this is about to become much bigger than a parking dispute." His posture shifted, respect creeping into his demeanor. Margaret sensed it too, but doubled down. "Arrest him, Tom. I'm a taxpayer. I have rights." I smiled faintly. "Mrs. Hayes, you're right about taxpayers deserving protection, and I'll ensure every dollar in this community is audited." The word audited hit her like a slap. Her face paled, and for a moment, fear replaced her arrogance. She had no idea she'd just stepped into the crosshairs of a federal investigation. As I drove away, I opened my laptop, revealing an FBI interface. Hayes, Margaret. Person of interest. Money laundering investigation. The irony was staggering. The HOA tyrant who'd racially profiled me was the same Margaret Hayes I'd been investigating. Her attack had given me probable cause to dig deeper, and what I found was explosive. Willow Creek HOA was a front for laundering money through Crestwood Financial. Fake invoices, shell companies, inflated projects. It was a textbook scheme, and Margaret controlled it all. I needed more evidence, so I infiltrated the next HOA meeting, a recorder hidden in my jacket. Margaret stood at the front, presenting slick slides about community investments, $400,000 for new lighting, $200,000 for landscaping. To the residents, it looked legitimate. To me, it screamed fraud. The invoices were for services never rendered, paid to companies that existed only on paper. As she spoke, I overheard her with the treasurer. "These bills are too obvious," he whispered. Margaret's reply was chilling. "Don't worry. I control the board, the police, everything." That was her confession, recorded. Her racism, her arrogance, her corruption, it was all unraveling. I called my contact. Got everything. Time for phase 2. The next day, I returned to Willow Creek, no longer the quiet observer. I was Special Agent James Thompson, FBI, ready to end Margaret's reign. Margaret was live streaming to her social media, crowing about protecting the neighborhood from undesirables like me. A crowd had gathered, some cheering her on, others skeptical. When Larson arrived, Margaret launched into her lies, but I cut her off. "Let's clarify who we're dealing with," I said, connecting my phone to a speaker. Ethan's voice blared. "People like you don't belong here." Then Margaret's, "Know your place." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Security footage followed, showing Ethan spitting on my car, trying to yank open my door, and Margaret escalating without cause. Margaret tried to dismiss it. Videos can be faked. But the evidence was undeniable, and her supporters wavered. Then she made her fatal mistake. "I don't care about your evidence. I control this neighborhood. Tom, arrest him, or your career's over." The threat, in front of dozens of witnesses, was her undoing. I stepped forward. "You want to know who I am?" The crowd fell silent. I pulled out my badge, the gold catching the sunlight. "Special Agent James Thompson, FBI." The air seemed to freeze. Margaret's face cycled through shock, denial, then terror. Ethan collapsed, fainting on the pavement. The crowd erupted, some clapping, others filming. Margaret's live stream exploded with comments as thousands watched her empire crumble. "I've been investigating Crestwood Financial for laundering $12 million through Willow Creek HOA," I continued. Margaret's denials grew frantic. "This is a setup," she screamed, but her panic only fueled the crowd's shift. Larson snapped into action. "Agent Thompson, I apologize for yesterday and offer full cooperation." As Margaret was cuffed, she kept screaming about entrapment, but the truth was simpler. Her actions had destroyed her. The aftermath was swift. Margaret's calls from custody implicated a councilman, exposing a wider conspiracy. Ethan, desperate to save himself, turned over passwords, records, and details of fake companies. Residents learned their HOA fees had funded nothing but Margaret's crimes. No new playgrounds, no security upgrades. They were furious but empowered, dissolving the HOA and forming a new, transparent board. The community was renamed Liberty Grove. Margaret's house revealed a trophy room of awards next to records of her fraud, a twisted monument to her ego. Her arrest sparked a regional probe, uncovering similar schemes and recovering millions for victims. 6 months later, in a federal courtroom, Margaret was sentenced to 10 years without parole. The judge's gavel was final, but the internet delivered its justice. My badge reveal went viral, viewed 40 million times, spawning memes like "From HOA Queen to FBI Scene." The phrase, "Let me show you some ID," became a rallying cry against bullies. Larson reformed his department, implementing bias training and recusal policies. Ethan's racist outburst, forever online, ruined his future. Willow Creek's residents got $1.8 million in restitution, and the case inspired HOA reforms nationwide. As I drove away from the courthouse, my badge glinting on the dashboard, I knew justice had prevailed. Margaret thought she could intimidate me, but she'd learned the hard way. Never underestimate the quiet guy in the beat-up sedan. What do you think about this story of justice against racism and corruption? Share your thoughts in the comments, especially on how we confront bullying and injustice in our lives. Do you believe in standing up to bullies, or is it better to avoid conflict? Let's hear your stance. This conversation matters.